Hello, this is Deborah with Black Education TV, weighing in yet again on the world stage. Kim Jong Un. Everyone is talking about the president of North Korea, Kim Jong Un, and it's not favorable. He's the boogeyman right now. And so there's an article that came out today that says he reportedly makes history with his first visit to China as a head of state. Right now, this man seems to be kind of isolated in the world, but something is going on. And I think we should keep our eye on the world stage and not just focus on the things that happen in our own communities, our own state, or our own country. We need to know and understand what is happening around the world. Okay, there's an article on AOL that's talking about his visit to China. It says North Korean leader Kim Jong Un is in Beijing. The report comes after a mysterious train journey in which high-security train left North Korea and arrived in Beijing to a locked-down station. The trip was followed by the emergence of a massive motorcade. If Kim is in Beijing, it would mark the first time that he's left North Korea since becoming the supreme leader in 2011, and a historic departure from years of deteriorating relationships with China. Wow. This is his first time leaving North Korea since he became the leader. Wow, that's amazing. That shows just how isolated this man has been. Well, anyway, back to the article. It says, since Kim took power, his aggressive pursuit of North Korea's nuclear weapons program has strained relations with China to the point where Beijing has little influence in Pyongyang. But Kim has recently expressed willingness to talk to South Korea and the U.S. Jong Un, a North Korea and China expert at the Stimson Center, told Business Insider that President Donald Trump's move to accept talks with Kim has elevated the North Korean leader's status, likely making China more eager to talk to him for fear of getting behind in future negotiations to determine the fate of the peninsula. Okay. What would a meeting between Kim and Xi mean? China has anxiety about being left out of talks between North Korea and the U.S., as the outcome could lead to a unified Korea or a U.S. presence in North Korea, both of which run counter to China's strategic interest. I find that interesting how, okay, you have this enemy that everyone considers the boogeyman, China and the U.S. and South Korea. But because China sees that America, the U.S., is talking to them now, they're saying, look, we have to get in too. Because it is against their strategic interest to have the U.S. and North Korea in talks. Because notice how the article says that the outcome could lead to a unified Korea or a U.S. presence in North Korea. So are they saying that this is something that China doesn't want? Interesting. Very, very interesting. As leaders of North Korea, Kim has never met with another head of state. Wow. As the leader of North Korea, he has never met with another head of state, and even purged his own uncle in a brutal execution, allegedly over his ties to China and possible efforts to dispose Kim in favor of a more China-friendly leader. If his trip to Beijing is confirmed, it's likely to end in a meeting between Kim and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Despite the recent history of rough relations, China remains North Korea's treaty ally and its main trading partner and point of contact with the outside world. Additionally, As an ally, China could help secure guarantees of North Korea's security with the U.S. North Korea understands that given the power disparity, even if they reach a deal with the U.S. and U.S. forsakes that deal, there's nothing they can do about it, Sun said. With X-size assurance, North Korea may feel more confident progressing in dialogues with the U.S. after it gets some external guarantee of its safety, Sun said. Okay, so a lot of you may be thinking to yourself that this has nothing to do with us. My thinking is this: as it relates to the end times, we owe it to ourselves to pay attention to what's going on around this world. There's all this talks of strikes and I have a bigger button than yours, and if you do this, I'll do that. All of these kind of talks between these nations. The scripture tells you, this is prophecy that we're looking at every time we see these types of things happening. The scripture says that nation shall rise against nation. Is that not what we are witnessing? Is that not what we're seeing? We are seeing nation rising against nation. And we also know that the scripture tells us that there are going to be those who were confederate with Edom are actually going to turn against him. So this is another reason why we need to understand who Edom is. Those who were confederate or allies with Edom are going to turn against them. So understand, family, when you look at biblical prophecy and you see the things that are unfolding in the world today, this puts you in a better light of understanding when you see and know what is happening. This nation that has been isolated, now you have the U.S. saying, okay, we'll talk. And China said, oh, you all are going to talk, then maybe we need to meet. So are they going to scuffle over who's going to befriend or be tighter allies with North Korea? Even though it says that China is already an ally or a trade partner, North Korea is probably considering that, maybe we do need some outside help and not be so isolated from the rest of the world. Maybe he is considering that because there have been a lot of threats given by the U.S. to North Korea. And because China and the U.S. have this strained relationship going on because of the monetary system and the debt and all of these alliances they're forming with other nations outside of the U.S., maybe it's time that North Korea does consider being less isolated. Now, this puts us in a peculiar situation because we're in a nation that is being slowly isolated from all other nations. As many are stating, these other nations are tired of playing this money game with the U.S. They're tired of being bullied. So many things are taking place on the world stage to where these other countries are joining together, dropping the dollar, making these alliances with one another, becoming trade partners with one another, saying, look, we can trade with our own money. We don't need to trade with U.S. dollars anymore. And so instead of us thinking that none of this has anything to do with us and that, oh, that's their situation, that's their problem, that's their war, this all affects every last one of us. Things that happen on the world stage affect every last one of us in some form or another. When you live in a country who's gaining more and more enemies around the world, you can best believe that you need to pay attention to what's happening with these other nations. This is something that I've done for a very long time. I always like to know what's going on in these other countries. Because when you look at biblical prophecy, all of these nations are in some form or another mentioned, even if not by name. They are mentioned in end time prophecy. There are things that are going to take place that we need to know about. And so what I would say yet again, family, is pay attention to what's happening in these other countries, in these other nations. Look at what's going on with the dollar, because trust me, when your dollar is affected, you will know it, you see. And all of these happenings around the world at some point will affect what your money is worth and how you spend it. Okay, keep your eye on the world, family. And with that, I will say shalom.